what's going on, guys? My name is Shane, and today I am looking like the hottest mess, but don't get it twisted because I've shown up on camera much worse than this. That's not going to stop me from filming today. Today I was inspired by one of my more recent videos, my confessions of a former Forever 21 employee. I really had a lot of fun making that video. Even though it was so long ago, I had wanted to post it so bad, and when I had left Forever, I was like, yes, now I finally get to post it. So that video inspired today's video. I've had 9 jobs. I have commitment issues when it comes to jobs. If I'm not happy there, I try not to stay there. There are 1,000 jobs out there, and I will find my dream one someday. I figured it would be kind of interesting to kind of continue off of the former Forever 21 employee video and tell you guys a little bit about my other jobs that you might not know about. This will probably be a 2-part video. I have a feeling that the parts are still gonna be long, but like I said, I have 9 jobs to get through, and I want to be able to talk about my kitten is going crazy. I want to be able to talk about each one at least a little bit. So let's go ahead and get started. So job number 1 is the job that I started the day after my 14th birthday. My mom said, if you want a car when you're 16, you want your license, you want a phone, you want I had a credit card at the time because not when I was 14, when I turned 18. She's like, if you want a credit card eventually, like, you need to get a job. Some parents might agree with that and some parents might not. I actually really like the idea that I started working young. I wasn't like into sports or into extracurricular activities in school, regardless of if I had a job or not, because I just wasn't that kind of person. So after school, I'd be making money and like saving money. So that very first job was actually at my family's restaurant, and I'm still there. 11 years later, I have been kind of on and off with this job because it's a very difficult and demanding job. I do a lot there. We have like a little restaurant in the dining room area that we have people come in. The kitten is playing with my backdrop. We have a whole catering. We have like waitressing where I waitress like weddings and mercy meals and like on-site events. We go and cook on-site for like barbecue events. Like, we do a lot. I've delivered. I've done a lot. So I've been there on and off because, again, I started that job when I was 14. So when I was like 16, 17, I was like, I haven't really experienced anything else. And I knew that the job industry or the food industry was not my main passion in life. So I was trying to find that. This job I don't talk much about because I am still like currently there. And I don't want any of my family to find this video and get mad about it at all because I like shared too much or like talked about customers too much. But I'll tell you, just out of pure respect from the place, I'm not gonna like share too many stories. I'll share stories from the other places I worked at, but just to like respect my family's restaurant and our customers. I have just simply met some of the nastiest people I've ever met in my entire life at this job. It's really bad. The area that the place is into is kind of getting a little more run down. Like, I kind of grew up in that town and it just wasn't as bad as it is now. So we'll have a lot of like, I hate to say it, but like you'll see junkies come in, and I've had quite a bit of people pass out on me in the bathroom. I had this homeless guy who, he still kind of does it, but like he used to watch me like open the restaurant in the morning. Like, we had the big dining room, but then we had big windows, and even though I didn't unlock the door, it wasn't like our windows are tinted, so you could still see inside from outside. So I brought that to my boss, and I was like, listen, this guy is watching me mop every morning. That kind of situation dwindled down a bit. So there's a lot, and I could make 5,000 story times about this one job, but like I said, I respect it too much. We're moving on. A lot of these jobs I either had at the same time or kind of like went back and forth between 2 different jobs. So the next job was at a consignment store. If you don't know what a consignment store is, it's kind of like a thrift store, but the idea is that you're not like donating the clothes. So let's say I went through my closet and I found a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't fit in or just never wore, and I wanted to get rid of it. Instead, if I didn't want to just like donate them, you could go to a consignment shop, and the people at the consignment shop will sell the clothing for you, and then you get a percentage of whatever they sell your items for. So I did that job for only like a couple of months just because I was bored. I was so bored. It was my first retail job. It was just in this little tiny like hole in the wall place, so we weren't crazy busy. My boss was a teeny tiny bit cuckoo, like just a little bit. But like I said, I wasn't there too long. I think I only met one other girl that worked there during the whole, like couple months that I was there. I want to say maybe 6 months I was there. Only met like one other girl. And the job was okay. Ooh, ouch, you're clawing my toes. The job was okay. I was just so bored, like so bored. It's like, you know, when I worked at Forever, I was a little bit iffy because I had worked this consignment shop, so I had experience with retail, and I'm like, oh, if it was anything like that consignment shop, I'm not going to be able to do it. But the thing with Forever is that it was busy. It got messed up all the time, so even if you sat there folding clothes for 6 hours, it actually went really, really fast because you just kept busy. The consignment shop was very difficult to keep yourself busy, and I'm the kind of person that I don't like standing around at work, so it just didn't work out, and I ended up quitting that job. The next job I'm going to talk about very briefly because it was only like a couple months of working, not because I quit. It was literally just a very, very small side job. Now, the company that my husband works for, I don't work for them. I work at my own restaurant, but there was a point of maybe like 3 months where we were doing once a week catering for like another company. They would like have these meetings once a week, and my husband and I were the only ones that in charge of the catering parties. So it's actually really nice because like I, you know, would go drop Ella off, go to his location, and we would cook and do the parties together, and it was just really nice. I feel like he's eating a cord. Arrow. Stop eating my cords, Bubbaloo. So that job was really, really quick. I really liked it, not because of like the job itself necessarily. Like the job itself was really, really easy. It was just the fact that I actually got to spend some time with my husband and work with him, and we like cooked together. It was just really nice. We cleaned up afterwards together, and I really did appreciate that time that I had with him. Hey, Arrow, leave my cord alone, boo, before I have to buy a new one. I'm going to talk about 2 other jobs in today's part 1, and then you'll hear about the other ones in part 2. The next 2 jobs I'm going to talk about was Dunkin Donuts and Denny's. Now, the reason that I'm sharing these 2 jobs at the same time is because they have very similar conclusions, I guess. Neither job I made past training as well. So Dunkin Donuts, we'll start with that one because that one I applied to well before I had applied to Denny's. So after I had quit the consignment shop, I had gone back to my family's restaurant full time. Like at that point, I hadn't left. I was working both jobs. So I quit the consignment shop. I was just working at my family's restaurant. Down the line, I started to get bored again, and I'm like, I want to try something different. I'm good at food service. Let's try food service. I already tried retail. Let's try food again. So I applied to Dunkin Donuts because there was one that was opening up really close to me. Like great, like it would literally take me no more than 5 minutes to get to this location, right? So I start my training, I apply, I'm pretty much hired like right away. I get a call pretty quickly back. I go and meet the manager, and right away I could tell that the manager and I were just like not gonna get along. I'm that kind of person that if we meet, I almost immediately know if we're going to click or not. I have a very strange personality that's kind of hard to get along with, I think. I'm very quiet, so I come off very snooty sometimes, and like not by any means, but I feel like if you don't have the opportunity to get to know me, I can be a hard person to get along with because you might construe things like the wrong way or like misunderstand me. So anyways, this manager and I just kind of knew we were not going to click right away. and we start my training. Now, I don't know what comes after computer training, but you start with computer training because I didn't make it past the computer training. I'm really good on computers, and we were taking like some quizzes or whatever, like doing just questionnaires and just doing basic training to learn your job. And I remember this manager would always stand like behind my shoulder and watch the answers that I was putting in. And that just made me extremely nervous because I didn't want to answer wrong. To make it look like I'm not qualified for this job. But like when I have someone standing right here, that's all I can think about. I can't focus on the question. I can't read the question. I can't read the answers and like really think about it. So this guy kept standing over my shoulder, and I remember at one point I was getting so anxious, I just started answering questions just so he would kind of like leave me alone, I don't know, walk away or something. And I remember putting some sort of answer down for a question, and he's like, "Are you kidding me?" Like right over my shoulder. And I'm like, I said, "I don't know." And he's like, "No, that's not the right answer." Like made a big thing about it. And I'm like, well, like if you weren't freaking breathing down my neck, maybe I could read the question. I don't know. So this job I was already kind of not liking. It wasn't like liking my manager. It was probably about 2 or 3 days into computer training that things kind of took a turn for the worse. So I had showed up. We were just about to finish the computer training. This day, we were supposed to finish computer training and then move on to other training. So he says to me, like the time before this time, I'll have to have you come in really early next time, like 5:30 in the morning, and we'll finish off this training. So I said, okay. Like I used to be very used to waking up really early for school. I used to get up at 5:30. Not a big deal to get up a little bit earlier and be here in 5 minutes. So I show up that day. I showed up early. I showed up about like 5:15. I was up really early that day to make sure I wasn't late. I went there. I was early, great. I talked to the assistant manager. I just told her I was waiting for whatever his name was. And great, I'm just sitting in the back room. It's like 5:30 rolls around. He's still not here. 5:45 rolls around. He's still not here. 6 o'clock rolls around. He's still not here. And now at this point, I'm kind of pissed because keep in mind, I'm still at my family's restaurant at this point, and I had given up or like covered some of my hours at the restaurant just so I could go to training and show them that like I'm reliable and I'm serious about the job. So I had given up a shift that morning at the restaurant for 8 o'clock. So here I am, 6 o'clock in the morning, just waiting for this guy. And I'm like, well, if you're not going to show up, like I just, missed out on 7 hours in my paycheck because I switched it. I called that day off. So I was pissed, and I went to the manager and I said, listen, like I have another job I could be going to at 8 o'clock. I said, he's not here. I don't want to come off rude because I am still just a trainee and I want to show as much respect as I can, but like my time is also kind of valuable here. She understood completely. Like she's like, you know what, let me try giving him a call on my cell phone or whatever. So she tries giving him a call and then comes back to me and tells me that he forgot about our training day. So I'm pissed at this point. This guy, and I know there's more to the story, I just can't remember why I really did not like this guy. But at the time, I just remember having such a sour taste in my mouth from him. And he was just not a good manager. He wasn't professional. So this is what I did. She says, he forgot about your appointment, but he wants to know if you'll come back in tomorrow at 5:30 a.m. and we'll finish the training. So you know what I did? Instead of just telling the guy, nah, never mind, you know what, you're unprofessional, I just want to stick with my current job, I said, well, why, yes, I can be here for 5:30 the next morning, you son of a bitch. And I didn't show up. So he got to come in and wait for somebody. I am not 100% proud of that, but I'm not going to lie. You did good, Shane. So that was Dunkin Donuts. That was, I'm telling you. And it's funny because after that whole like spiel, I still went to that Dunkin Donuts once in a while. Not too often because I don't drink coffee. So it was just like for an occasional bagel or donut. And I remember pulling up to a drive-thru once and my ex-boyfriend was working the drive-thru. And it wasn't like super awkward because we had actually ended it on really good terms. Like we dated in 6th and 8th grade. So it wasn't like these committed any relationships, but we were still friends even though we weren't dating. So it was kind of like, I'm kind of glad that I didn't end up having to like work with him. I love him as a person, but I don't know how that would have been. Now Denny is the last the last job that we're going to talk about in today's video is Denny's. So I applied to Denny's years ago and I had never gotten a call back, probably around the same time that I first applied to Dunkin Donuts. Never got a call back, so you know, a while passed. I had worked at like Forever 21 and stuff. I had done other jobs and I reapplied. There was another point in time where I was looking for something new. I said, well, Denny's never called me back. Let me try them again. This time I ended up getting an interview. They called me in. And I talked to the manager, and this manager was very, very sweet. She was explaining to me that she is trying to find people who, like, show up for their shifts and don't call out. And I am that person. Like, you might not believe that after this story, but I very rarely call out. If I'm sick, I still try to go into work. The only time I ever call out, as of like the past couple of years, is if my daughter is sick and cannot go to her babysitters. And I think that's quite a legitimate reason. So, you know, I told her I'm very reliable. I've been at my job for X amount of years. You know, I'm fast. I am fast. Like I'm very proud of my work ethic. I really am. So I'm hyping myself up for this job, you know. First day of training, I get stuck with this kid, and I don't think he was a manager, but he should not have been training me whatsoever. So I was shadowing him, and he was like showing me around and like explaining stuff, but he wasn't explaining anything in detail. Literally like a milkshake, he's like, put 2 scoops of chocolate in here, put it in here, like just starts pressing buttons, doesn't tell me what buttons to press. He's like, it's really easy, it'll be done in a second. And I'm like, oh, what? Like, what just happened? Like, stuff like that. It would just be so quick. And he would skip over stuff that I didn't know yet, you know? To the point, I had worked with him twice. I trained with him twice. And on the second day, I ended up going to another manager. Not the lady, but like a guy who actually really looked like Ryan Reynolds. It was really bizarre how much he looked like Ryan Reynolds. Anyways, I went to him and I said, listen, I know I'm new. I said, I don't want to like complain or cause issues. I said, but this guy training me, I'm afraid I'm not going to, the heck was that? I'm afraid I'm not going to learn anything from him. He's not explaining anything to me in detail, and I just don't want to like start and not know anything, you know? So he's like, well, I don't want to tell him that because it's probably going to hurt his feelings. He's like, you know, just kind of deal with it for the rest of this shift, and then the next time that you're trained, like, we'll find someone else or whatever, right? The next person that was training me was a girl. I don't know why I was so intimidated by her, but she was just like very to the point. I remember she would go out for like 1,000 cigarette breaks and bring me outside with her to like go over the menu, and I could answer questions for her. And like she'd ask me like, all right, I want to order this. What comes with it? Or what do you have to ask? And I'm like, I don't know. Like I was stressing myself out so bad trying to memorize that menu. For some reason, I cannot memorize menus, because you're going to see in part 2, I talk about this again. I can't memorize menus. So I was having a really difficult time, and she just kept making me kind of feel stupid. Like everything that I would answer wrong, she's like, no, 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 no. So it was just kind of one of those things where I felt very discouraged, and I kind of felt stupid because I had all this food service stuff on my resume, and I had been there for X amount of years, blah, blah, blah. So I felt really stupid. So my last day of training, I wasn't confident at all. I was so scared. And then I had a Saturday morning shift. Early in the morning, they were only going to give me like 2 to 3 tables, but I was not ready. And I was trying to tell them, like, I am not ready. They're like, you'll be fine, like, you can ask us questions. I'm like, I'm not ready. Unfortunately, I didn't end up showing up for that shift, and that is the first and the only time, besides the whole Dunkin Donuts training thing, and that was 100% the manager's fault because I did show up. This was the first time that I had not shown up for a shift. And it didn't feel good. I had turned my phone off the next day because I was afraid to get the phone calls. It didn't feel good. I just didn't know what to tell them, so I told them nothing. Oh, I forgot to mention, this is important, but it took a long time to get paid from Denny's for my check. I ended up emailing whoever is higher up on Denny's and just saying, can you please make sure I get my check, because I've had a company before not pay me for my time, which is true, which was Dunkin Donuts. Now remember when I was talking about Dunkin Donuts, how I said I was giving up shifts at a job I was already making good money to be here to get paid for training. Never got paid for training from Dunkin Donuts. I had like 4 days of training that I went, then I never got paid for it, and this was about 6 years ago. So at the time, I didn't really know what to do. Now, obviously, with the whole Denny's thing, I'm not gonna let that happen. Mama's getting her money. Wow, I'm looking myself in the viewfinder. If you guys made it this far by looking at this, thank you. I hope it was interesting, and I hope you guys are looking forward to part 2, where I have more stories that you're not gonna wanna miss. Trust me. I've had so many jobs. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, leave a big thumbs up on my video. And if you don't want to miss any new ones, please hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. And I'll see you in my next one. Bye, guys.